Hi everyone, this is DeagleBeagle, Ryan Schambers, and I won a PC a couple weeks ago. Okay, so I'm going to go into the team building guide and go over how to build teams in general. So these are some of the different teams that I came up with, different types of themes. So of course there's way more than 8 types of teams. I just have 8 on here. I actually have way more, but they're not all on here. They're somewhere else. Okay, so let me go over all these things that I wrote down. So recently I kind of realized it's kind of useful to know who all the tailwinders are that are good, all the trick roomers, all the intimidators, fake outers, etc. And I left off a lot of the ones that I didn't feel were that great because there's no point in thinking about them anyways if I'm probably not going to use them. But they are always a possibility. However, let's just look here. So Bravery, Mandibus, Pelipper, those are one of the only decent tailwinders I would feel like. And then there's tailwind attackers. So pretty much anything that has decent speed or higher with a lot of offense is typically good in tailwind. Things like a Rockwind are typically used not in tailwind, but you might be able to max speed on Pokemon like a Rockwind or a Marowak and maybe make it work in tailwind. Okay, next one. Pelipper, Politoed, Tapu Bulu. Oh, these are more tailwind attackers. Okay, Trick Roomers, Mimikyu, Oranguru, Porygon 2 are the main 3 good ones. Trick Room attackers, um, there's a whole bunch of them, so they're all listed here. And I know Caracosta is weird, but I was thinking about it one time to be Mudstale a Rockrunnid combo. And then Intimidate Counter. So, Trick Room, let's go back. These are all slow Pokemon, all of them. All of them. They don't have to be like super slow, but they have to be at least medium to low speed. Otherwise, it's like they're not made to be a Trick Room powerhouse because they're not slow enough or fast enough in Trick Room. Okay, Intimidate, Counter, Bravery. It has to fight Melodic as competitive. Look them up. Intimidators. I don't feel like Gyarados is very good. I didn't feel like it was ever that good. It does have potential, but overall, like, there's discharge and stuff. So maybe it's getting. It was like really good in the beginning until, well, even then it wasn't that great. But I mean, like, now it might get good again if there's too much Marowak to the point that no one wants to use electric Pokemon anymore to counter these bulky water types like Feeny. But right now I just feel like Arcanine and Crocodile are the main 2 good intimidators. There's other ones, but there's not a lot of good ones out there. Okay, Fake Out, Hariyama. You saw Gavin Michaels used it. I used it in a tournament at that PC that I just went to on the 5th. Okay, Lightning Rod, Marowak is the only decent one that gets it because Togedemaru, it's okay. I mean, it's not useless, but it just doesn't do that much damage, and it seems like all it does is support and encore and stuff. It doesn't really do that much, but I can see the potential in it. Okay, at least see immunity. You have Tapu Bulu, Kartana, there's more. Tapu Bulu, it's not as good as it used to be. It has so many weaknesses and people keep trying to exploit that. Okay, Discharge immunity. Get Garchomp, Crocodile, Mudstale, Ringuru. So if you're using Discharge, you should probably use 2 immunities. I like it on teams where I have both a Ringuru and either Garchomp or Crocodile. I don't normally like Discharge with hardly any immunities because I even used Crocodile at my last PC with Discharge on Tapu Koko, and it wasn't enough. Like the rest of my team, they either didn't have Protect or something, and a lot of them were weak to Discharge also, so I didn't really want to Discharge. So that was kind of a little bit of a flaw in my team building, but oh well. Earthquaker, Garchomp, Crocodile, Mudstale are the main ones. Blizzards, they come from like Vanillix or Ninetales, at least to set up the hail. You could also use it with like Melodic or something to piggyback off of your own hail. Okay, rain counters. You got this is weird, I know, Assault Vest Bulu. Um, but basically, you can slap an Assault Vest on almost anything that has decent typing versus rain and beat it. Like, I know it's weak to Hurricane and Ice Beam, but it still has decent bulk. So, you could wall like a Hurricane when they don't expect you to, and then possibly an Ice Beam on top of it from Golduck, and still survive, and then Horn Leech restore a lot of HP back. Okay, so you could also change the weather with Gigalith. You could use bulky resistances to a lot of moves they got, like Feeney. It may not resist Hurricane, but it walls like Hurricane and all the other moves they got pretty well. So Vanillix changes the weather, something like that. You need probably either Assault Vest, Sash, change the weather, do something. Maybe Fake Out plus Trick Room might beat it. So maybe Hariyama plus, let's just say Porygon 2. But then they could just go after the Hariyama as it's Fake Outing. Just target it with both Hydro Vortex and Hurricane, and no matter who you Fake Out, you're going to die. So I don't know if I recommend that. Okay, Earthquake weaks for grassy terrain. So if you're trying to use grassy terrain to help your allies, these are the Pokemon that would be good with them. So you saw Wolfey use Bulu, Muck, and Magnezone. Other people use Arcanine with it. That's very common. Okay, terrain users. So there's 4 different terrains. Of course, you can always manually set up terrain, but almost nobody does that. It's just so much easier just to send in one of these Pokemon. Okay, Will-O-Wisp. A lot of these physical Pokemon that aren't fire type, they're vulnerable to Will-O-Wisp except like Araquanid and maybe a couple others, that are fire type or something. So why do I put Will-O-Wisp vulnerable? Because again, if you're trying to team build, you can use another Pokemon to stop its weaknesses. So if Will-O-Wisp is one of the only weaknesses Muck has, let's just say, then if you use it with Tapu Fini, then maybe it doesn't have that Will-O-Wisp weakness anymore, at least not as much. And then maybe Intimidate and Tectonic Rage and Earthquake are the main issues, but you eliminate one of the most common ways to beat Muck. Okay, offensive filler. So there's things like Nihil Ego. It doesn't really support the team very much. It just supports it with like offense. And you have Pokemon like Tapu Lele that could kind of be considered filler, but since it brings in Psychic Terrain, you could say that your team could benefit from it somehow, like with Metagross or something, using Psychic moves. Okay, let's go down. I keep adding to this, and you know what? It keeps getting longer. So I have 10 things on here now. Some of them are kind of optional, some of them aren't. I mean, it really depends on your preference. So, I mean, there's no like rules in Pokemon where you have to use this or that, but I feel like these are general guidelines. So, here's what every team probably should have. I felt like it was crazy that 90% of the top cut teams at Dallas did not have some way to beat Aurora Veil. And I know they'll probably say something like, "Oh, I don't lose to Aurora Veil or this or that." And I don't really think that's why they didn't use weather. I think they used weather because they didn't expect there would be a lot of Ninetales, and they thought maybe they could do something to beat it. But I think they really underestimated Aurora Veil Ninetales on the right type of team. Very difficult to stop. So I feel like almost every team should have some sort of weather, but it's not really mandatory. It seems like it almost is though. Okay, status counter for Lilligant. Wait, no, let me go back. So here's another way you can stop Aurora Veil. You can try Brick Break, and you know what? You can even snatch it, believe it or not. But those don't seem very ideal or consistent. So, I mean, the easiest way is just to slap on weather. Okay, let's go to the next one. Lilligant counter. That's why I kept bringing Coco to every tournament, because I got so tired of sleep. And also Overcoat. I need to add Overcoat on here, like Mandibuzz. So basically Fini, Mandibuzz, Coco, things with Lumberry, grass types. Stuff like that, really help. So let's see, Trick Room Counter. Um, Basically using slow, powerful Pokemon. Sometimes Wide Guard, maybe Fake Out in the back. Maybe I should add that. Taunt, Imprison Trick Room. Like someone even used that with Trevavant. You could use it with Miss Magius. And then Roar, Whirlwind, etc. But the easiest way to beat Trick Room, well, actually, I should have put Intimidate on here too. But one of the easiest ways to beat Trick Room is just to counter their specific Trick Roomer. Like their Trick Room Powerhouse. Like if they use Gigalith, just use Crocodile. And if they have like a Ringuru plus Gigalith, that does nothing really to Crocodile. And Crocodile supports the allies. So things like that can really stop it. But not a lot of people use a Ringuru. So they usually use Porygon 2. So I normally try to wall Porygon 2 plus what you think they're going to use in the back for Trick Room. So it may not be easy, but you could always reverse Trick Room. That's what a lot of people do. Or they use really bulky Pokemon and can somehow kind of attack through it without worrying about them being finished off or something, and maybe stall it out. Okay, Intimidate Pokemon. You got Crocodile and Arcanine. As I said before, optional. I mean, all of these things are technically optional, just some things seem more mandatory or less optional than other things. Ground resistances. We have Bravery, Pelipper, Bulu, Porygon 2, Kartana, and you're thinking, well, Porygon 2 does not resist ground. Well, if it has a ton of defense, just like Kartana, and it takes neutral, you could kind of argue like it's the same thing as if it has less defense and it resists ground. So when I'm looking for ground resistances, that's what I'm looking for, where ground moves can't just tear apart my team like Earthquake. Because Earthquake's really good this year because almost nothing that's a high tier Pokemon is resistant to it. Porygon 2. So, bulky Pokemon, like you have Porygon 2 and Gastrodon, they're very annoying to kill. And I feel like you need something to finish them off. Otherwise, they'll just keep recovering, hitting you and for hard damage and winning eventually. So you could use fighting Pokemon like Pheromosa, Hariyama. You could use Taunt, almost anything learns that, especially dark types. You could knock off its item. That's not really a counter by itself, but if you use a powerful ally with it, it can help. Toxic, you could try Leech Seed. There's other ways to beat it. You could reverse Trick Room. You could kill everything else. That's what I used to do, and just leave it for the end later to gang up on. Gastrodon. Grass Pokemon like Kartana are very common, so you're going to see hardly any Gastrodon, but I would still pick a counter for it anyways. So Drampa can also have Energy Ball, and that's what Gavin Michaels used, but Dracometer with Berserker might be good enough. Next one, Eevee counter. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to beat it, and basically you could roar it, you could subseed it, curse it, taunt it, etc. So look on Trainer Tower, Google Trainer Tower Eevee team, and it'll talk about how to use it and how to beat it. Double Ducks counter. So you have Assault Vest Coco, which actually Patrick used at the Dallas Regionals, and I gave him a whole team to use, and it did pretty well as far as I know in some battles, but it wasn't great versus other things. So certain things like this, these are meant mostly to counter Double Ducks, but it may be good in general also. So the reason why Vanillix could be 116 speed is because it underspeeds Pelipper by 1 speed, but it's still as fast as possible. So you can also beat it if you use like weather, damaging weather that's slower, like Gigalith plus something. You could use Gastrodon, Cloud9. Golduck also gets Cloud9, but Drampa would be more ideal, but Drampa doesn't really beat it, or Gigalith. I mean, because they can just double up on your ally, and if you don't protect with Gigalith, then they can just kill that. So it's hard to beat it, but you need something. That's exactly why you need a counter for it, because it's hard to beat unless you have like two resistances for water or something, it's just hard to beat double ducks. And you actually found that a lot of people like Cybertron did really well with it. So I'm just going to show you a sample team really quick of how to use this. So what I like to do is, let's say I know that for sure I want Caracosta on a team. Well, I would basically copy and paste all of this 1 through 10 stuff, and then see where I could put Caracosta. Normally I would put it right next to the number 1, and then I would take all this and renumber it. So basically move it down, and so it would be like 11, and then Caracosta would be next to the number 1, and then I would just keep crossing off stuff later. So if Caracosta, let's say, fulfills one of these things, then I could cross it off. So possibly you could use it to take off this slot, because it is a slow, powerful Pokemon, and it could counter other Trick Room teams if it gets Trick Room, if you get Trick Room up, or if Trick Room is up in general. So what's the other ones? It doesn't really fulfill any of these other requirements, so you would have to leave all of those. But let's say you know for sure you want to use Caracosta and a Rangaroo. Well, you might be able to cross off another one of these. But yeah, I mean, possibly the Trick Room counter could also be a Rangaroo reversing Trick Room. But let's just say a totally different Pokemon. Like, let's say you want to pick Caracosta and Arcanine for some reason, even though I don't think that makes very much sense. So you could just cross out this one, and then you have Caracosta, but eventually you're going to have to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. You're going to have a Pokemon that knocks out at least 2 of these things. So let's say you want to pick Tapu Koko. Well, if you use Assault Vest with it, that could counter double ducks, and that could counter status teams. So if you use Assault Vest plus Koko plus Gigalith, that could be double ducks, and then it would also be status teams that are using like Sleep Powder or Spore. So things like that is how I team build. So there's a lot more than just this, and I don't always fulfill all of these requirements of the counters. I kind of think about what people are going to use at these tournaments and try to counter those, but I try not to read too into it and counter only the standard Pokemon, because that's another mistake I've been making a lot. So try to use this team builder if you're kind of new to Pokemon, and I think you'll have a lot of luck with it. It covers pretty much all the threats in the game, the high threats that I've noticed. I mean, everybody's using Kartana now, so I may have to update this to deal with Kartana, but it's like things to me like that to me are already obvious because I play this game all the time, so I'm not going to forget. I mean, Kartana is just something that I can't really forget, but I may, forget that I need this specific counter on my team to like Porygon 2 or Gastrodon or something that doesn't seem used quite as much, or it just slips my mind for whatever reason. So if you already know of all this stuff in your head, or a lot of it, then maybe you don't need it in the team building guide. But I like to have it just to be 100% safe that I cover a lot of bases. However, you shouldn't have a huge list where you water down your own team just to have a chance at countering all the different things that people could use. You have to kind of have a good guess at what people are going to use and try to counter it, but like I said, you can't read too much into it, because there's always some weird Pokemon like Vikavolt or Mandibuzz that pop out of nowhere, and people have them on good teams, or good people have them on their team. So this should help a lot. If you need any more help, just send me a message on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I have it all in the description of this video. Okay, thanks for watching. See you later.